Okay, so recording. Hello,
Hello.
Amy. How you doing? How are you feeling
I'm good.
today? Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm feeling more positive than I was feeling at the end of last week. I kind of hit the wall last week, and now I'm refreshed and I'm ready to go again.
Because you are right in the middle of crowdfunding for your latest show, I
Yes.
which is the story of Lady Mary Heath. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, it's inspired by the life of Lady Mary Heath, and then it's set against the backdrop of a modern day Irish woman.
Okay.
So yeah, so because I think in the beginning when I was looking at it, it was kind of boring to just do a biography of Lady Mary Heath, and her life is so full, it's very hard to find a specific bit.
Yeah.
So it was more, it ended up turning into a whole different kind of piece by the end of it. So yeah.
And this is your seventh show that you've written?
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing because I remember I saw your Female of the Species in the Mayfield
Oh,
in Dublin a couple of years ago. I took
yeah.
her along for her birthday and we had
Oh
dinner
my
on the show and we both loved it and
God.
roared laughing about it. And you've been a bit of an inspiration to me over the last number of years because you've taken control of your own life as an actor and a writer. So how did that start? How did that come about? Because
Oh God.
have you always written, or has this always just been a
No.
parallel thing?
Yeah, it kind of happened quite gradually. Like I always was able to express myself in poetry for some reason
Yeah.
all the way along
Yeah.
my life, but never took it seriously. It was very kind of sporadic when I would do that. But then I had been out of drama school, God, like about 5 years before I first wrote a one-woman show or anything. And I think it just was born out of this kind of idea, like, how do it was a long journey, but basically it was like, how do I be an artist? Because if I'm sitting here waiting for the phone to ring the whole time, like I have no control and no power. And the whole point that I got into acting was because I wanted to be creative and live that kind of a life. So yeah, it was kind of
dichotomy, isn't it, of the acting life, is that
yeah.
and it's why I think for tax purposes in this Republic of Ireland anyway, you're not seen as a creative artist, you're seen as an interpretive artist.
Yes.
And it's really irritating because you're just as, well, I think you're just as creative, but you are slightly at the behest of other people.
Exactly. And then even we were doing kind of a bit of a workshop with my mum who directs my shows. And she was kind of saying how you have to create a space for yourself, even as an actor, when you're preparing something, so that you mindfully step into the space. And this is my studio, even if it's just the tiniest corner in your room, then you step out, because an artist has a room where he paints on it, his paintings, and musicians have their space with their piano or whatever instruments. And as actors, we just sort of have ourselves, and we never grant ourselves the gift of having a space. Or
that is so true. So do you have a space now that are you still sort of creative? Do you have a space in your home or a studio that you go to work in? Or
we do have actually an office upstairs, which is actually very helpful. And I have like a desk there, and I've got a vision board up, and all little inspiring things. And then if I am just rehearsing something, no matter where I am, I'll just mentally step into, like, this is my space now, and then I'll mentally step out so that I don't get distracted, I suppose, as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. So where does the what was your first one-woman show, and how did that come about?
So my first one-woman show is called Life. And at this point, I probably had been in London. I think I've been in London about 7 years, which is really interesting if you think of that 7-year cycle. Every 7 years for me, I can see a shift. And it was like, literally, I've been in London about 7 years, and I'd gone to see a couple of one-person shows, and I was just like, yeah, I could do it, feck it. Like, just totally sort of kind of went, because I could see the flaws and I could see the good things. So I kind of went, actually, it's and you just have yourself. And it was that idea that I could just do it myself. So I didn't need anything. I could just literally, and I had this idea of what I wanted to say about life and how it's a journey and it's not a destination, and very simple things, but it was kind of stuff that I was coming to the conclusion of after being in London. And I was just taking all these experiences of being in London, and it just became this whole fusion of poetry and comedy and movement and multi-rolling, jumping in and out of different characters. And I just loved it. And it really took a life of its own, and it changed my life. It was an incredible kind of, yeah.
And so when you're creating something, what do you have a particular process that you follow, or do you just jump right in, or where does it go?
Yeah. I think I kind of just jump right in. I usually have an idea of what I want to say in some way, and then I'll try and get it down to 1 to 3 sentences of what I'm trying to say and maybe what the show is about. And it might be very simple, but it will always, so that'll kind of anchor me back in when I'm kind of just writing madly and not really knowing where it's going. Yeah. But a lot of it is just mad writing and trusting that it's coming together. Yeah. And what I found as well through all of my shows, they always have this poetry or spoken word element in them. And I try to fight it for this show because it's become quite fashionable now. So I kind of tried to fight. I was fighting against myself because someone even commented when they read the show about like, oh yeah, I see that you've got like, that's very, they were like, that's very Emma Kirwan, who I'm a big fan of and I know and I like and, and I love his stuff. But I was like, oh, I've actually been doing this for nearly 10 years, but okay, great, So I fought against it because I didn't want it to look like I was copying anybody, that kind of awful thing. And then I kind of went, hang on, actually, I express myself the best through poetry, and then I get all the other bits.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, when it comes down to communicating a story, it is about authenticity. And if you're trying to sound different to how you sound and how you are, and you've obviously got a confidence in your own voice and in your ability to communicate. So what fills your well then? What is it that inspires you? Obviously women.
Yeah. women inspire me. But my mother and my sisters are just like, they're a well of inspiration right there, because I'm from I've my dad, but an all girl family, all females. So yeah, they're very inspiring to me because
your mom is an actress, but she directs now. But
she directs more now. But yeah, she was an actress when I was young, and then was a drama teacher as well. So she was always in that field somewhere. Right. And she was a great inspiration because there was 5 of us at home, and she just made it work. Like, I don't know how she made it work, but she just made it work. And she always said if there's anything she wanted to do, she would just go and do it and figure out the rest later, and you just be kind of all thrown in the car and go and play, but it worked, Wow. So hopefully I'll be like that moving forward.
But that's a particular inspiration. Well, I'm sure it's an inspiration for Fiona, your sister, who has for people like me as well. It's like that, holding on to that, that vision and that single-mindedness can be quite tricky, particularly with life generally.
Oh God, yeah. And then just other stuff gets in the way. Yeah. But I suppose lots of things inspire me. I don't know. A lot of self-help books actually inspire me because I think as creative people, you need them. And
oh gosh, I'm a total self-help junkie. I mean, I have a bookcase downstairs in my kitchen, and it has all my spiritually, helpful books. Who are some writers that you're reading at the minute that are filling you up?
Well, I'm actually listening to a lot of Abraham Hicks, because it's all about, they kind of are all about how the
law of attraction.
Yeah, kind of like the law of attraction, and how it's all there, you've created it, and it's just about getting kind of on the same level, on the same vibration as what you've kind of created. So it's really inspiring, because you kind of go, yeah, I've created all this stuff. It's all there. I've thought it. I want it to happen, and it's all going to happen in its right way and in its right time. And I think as an actor, you need that, because you need to just trust that it's working out for you in the best possible way. And I love, actually, I've started reading, but I'm not that far into it. Gabby Bernstein has a book.
The Universe Has Your Back.
The Universe Has Your Back, and she's a new one about the judgment.
Yes, I've got that one. I haven't started reading it yet. I have that.
I started it, and then I'm like, oh, but and it is so funny, because it is that thing of like, when you spend all your time judging not only yourself but other people and things that you're doing, it just slows you right down. And
yeah,
so
I was just thinking this morning, I was sort of listing the things I should do today, like
yeah,
I really should do yoga and I really should do walk. And honestly, the minute you use the word should,
no,
it
you're not going to,
completely messes up, and that pressure prevents you from doing anything. So
exactly.
So what kind of things keep you? Well, obviously, I mean, from watching you over the last couple of years, you're incredibly self-motivated, and you know, you obviously have very clear visions. So what is it that sustains you when, you know, and just to keep going? Because I mean, like, this life is hard. I mean, Noni and I have that conversation in our chat on the podcast, but you know, it's really hard to keep going sometimes. So what is it that sustains you? What do you?
I think like a routine in a way. And that was something Fiona, my sister, gave to me very early on in my career. She said, you know, make sure that you have some sort of a routine, because as an actor, your life there's no routine. So like yoga has been huge for me, because it's something that I go to a certain amount of times a week, or I aim to, or, you know, if it's slow work-wise, it's actually great because it gets you out in the morning, you're in a routine. And then you might be like, oh, I'll do a bit of writing, or I'll do a bit of this, but it kind of starts my day right. And that's kind of, so I think kind of some semblance of a routine is actually important.
I only discovered that about myself once my children actually started going to school. And I loved I didn't like the getting out to school, but the actual rhythm. It's about creating a rhythm of life is actually really, really key.
And then you start to kind of find pockets of time, whereas I think if you are just completely free all day, you're just going to sit around and overthink and do nothing. Like, it's just, and then, you know, what am I doing? And then the day goes and you're like, I've done nothing. Like, who am I? You know, all this.
Exactly.
So yeah,
one of the things that Noni said in our conversation was how she was able to leave the dishes when she had a piece of work that she was able to kind of just put other things aside and focus. How do you find that? Do you find it easy enough to focus? Or do you find yourself procrastinating?
No, I think I do. I think I'm actually quite good at focusing, especially if I definitely want to do something. If I don't, I probably will procrastinate. But I think as well, it's that idea of, but I'll always have to do something first. So it's like, I'll have to walk the dog, or I'll have to go to yoga. I need to do something active first, almost to just blow away the cobwebs, and then sit down at the page. I think if I just kind of wake up and go straight to the page, I'm like, I can't think. So I kind of, my body is kind of needs to kind of just
to move,
shake it off,
and
then settle. And I think that's the thing. I think I need to just do something a little bit active, and I'm not talking about running a marathon, no way, but like just doing something with my body, getting into my body. I think that's it as well, because I don't think we just write with our brains. I think with all the creative stuff we do, it's from our body, it's from every bit of us. And I think if we don't wake up all of that, we start to kind of get really in our heads and intellectualize everything.
But it also explains why so many female characters are disembodied, that they're cerebral, because a lot of them are written by men, and so it's what they imagine women to sound like, or be like, or think like. And it can be, it's like, well, sorry, but you're not in our body, so
you don't feel it the same.
So tell me a little bit about Lady Mary Heath and how that inspired you, and what led you to do the crowdfunding campaign.
So basically, Lady Mary Heath was the first female commercial pilot. She was from Limerick. She was a woman before her time. She was married 3 times in early 1900s Ireland, just not heard of. Her last marriage was to a black man, and they were kind of, it was not kind of, I don't know if that's the politically correct, but in all the books it says he was black, so I'm just saying that. I think it was half Jamaican or something. But anyway, so there was that. She was the first person to parachute out of a plane. She was just incredible. And this girl, Mel, from Her Story, and it's a movement trying to reclaim the forgotten stories of Irish women, got on to me after seeing my shows, and she was like, I think you'd love this character. And I was like, okay. And she was kind of saying, you should write something about it. And I read the character and I was like, God, she's so interesting. But I kind of didn't know where I would even begin. So it was all little baby steps. It basically was when the launch was happening for Her Story, I just wrote sort of like a monologue of what of how I thought she would open her story, and and kind of celebrate all of this, and welcome all these people. And then from there, I was reluctant to produce it myself like I'd done with my one woman show. So I had tried to get it into Show in a Bag. I had tried to get it into every theatre going, every production company going. Eventually then sort of landing in the New Play Clinic, where I got a couple of workshops with Gavin there. And that for me was great because it suddenly evolved into a two-person show.
Okay.
Which I had just done before I kind of met Gavin. And then he was great with the sort of dramaturgy of it, because I think with that, I'm not so strong on the structure of things. So it was really good to kind of find a place and a name and exactly where they were and exactly what was happening. And then I was just really happy with the script and was trying to get it through the door with some new writing companies who just never got back to me after. On the website, they're like, oh, we'll get back in 4 to 6 months. And even when I followed it up, didn't. And I just kind of realized, and I had this moment, I actually, this sounds like I'm real like yogi and all, and I'm not. I just had a real hit the wall moment. And I just went, you know what, I'm going to just, a few kind of down to the last twos in things, you know, and I just real hit the wall, and other people getting things, and, you know, and you kind of go, oh, Jesus. So I just sat and meditated, just found this thing about letting go, and I was fine. And I just sat there, and because I was sitting there and letting my brain just kind of take it all in, I just went a real clear, you have to do this yourself. You have to just do it yourself. And now is its time. And I was like, okay. So then I just decided, look, I'll just crowdfund and pay the people, you know, because it needs a really good set designer. It needs another actor, and do it that way. But reluctantly, I've kind of gone into it. I would love another producer to just take it, but there's not many theatre producers in Ireland, because there's not much money in it. And I've never, and the other thing as well, which is interesting, I felt a real sort of kinship with Lady Mary Heath, because I always felt like for all these sort of achievements that I had, or these big parts that I'd had, I'm not really recognised in the scene or the theatre scene over here, because there's a very clear theatre scene. So I kind of had that kind of kinship of like, yeah, I know what it's like not to be seen and to feel like you're just doing it all by yourself. And so it's been a really interesting journey where the two kind of have come together, myself and Lady Mary Heath, and are kind of, I do feel like I see her, and and that's not dissing the scene or anyone in the scene. It's more just like, have you never felt?
I completely relate. I think it's when I found personally, I was away for 5 years and I came back, and I think you've worked away. People don't really know they haven't seen you.
Yes.
With stage work, anyway, I found that I was an unknown quantity. People were able to take me. They take bigger risks in the UK because there's more money to be able to do that. You know what I mean? And there's more people, so it's just easier, I think. But over here, it's just a whole different scene, and it can be.
It really is, and it's the same people a lot of the time, same people getting something again and again and again. But we are a tiny community, and in tiny communities, what happens is that you can work with someone, so you'll work with them again because you're delighted that you can, So it is just that it's a product. Yeah. I
know. Yeah, and but it is so funny though. I mean, like, I just having done the vagina monologues up here, how when it kind of can work to your advantage being different. Let's do a show together, okay?
Exactly, and that kind of gives you that impetus, because when you've nothing to sort of lose, and you're somewhere you're somewhere new.
Yeah, I think that's great. So you are looking to fund. What's the plan for this then? You've got your crowdfunded. Once you're trying to raise $4,000.
Yeah.
And then with that, have you got a plan of where this is going to go on and when, or what's the story there?
Yeah, so it's been accepted for Theatre Upstairs, because they're so specific about their new writing. It's only ever new writing there, and I love them there. I did one of my one-woman shows there. So it's going to be in Theatre Upstairs from the 11th to the 26th of May.
Right.
And and that for me is like, and that's what Theatre Upstairs is so good at. It's a really good springboard and starting off point, because there has been interest from Limerick, because obviously Lady Mary Heath was from Limerick.
Yeah.
And there has been interest generally, but I think what's happened is that a lot of people or a lot of companies or theatres or people in theatres have gone, oh, I'd love to see that. So it's like, I have to, and this always happens to me. It's like, I always feel with my work, it doesn't read well. I need it to be up and running and people get it then. But I think before that, so this is kind of almost like a starting point, hopefully, that it can keep going. And even even just to get our story out there is just
And
so
do you
important.
have the other actress have you casted already? Have you?
No, I'm sort of still in the process of like casting people. So yeah, it's and that's nerve-wracking for me as well, because it's very vulnerable to actually ask somebody to come in on your work and to love it as much as you have. And I've sort of set this thing in my brain where I'm going, all I want is someone that is like as passionate about it as me and loves this character. And I
invested as you
exactly. Yeah. And I love the character. And I was like, I was just even saying recently, like, if I could do it as a one-woman show, I would, because I love both characters so much that like I'd love to play them both.
Yeah.
And it's
are they the same? Like, do they speak to each other, or are they two different times?
They sort of come forward at different times, so they're actually telling their stories separately. But then when one character is telling her story, the other character is sort of playing out the other characters in her monologue, and then vice versa. But Lady Mary Heath is trying to get these messages through this sort of wall to modern Mary, and she does. So it's not that they're talking to each other. It's almost like that modern Mary is hearing Lady Mary Heath on a subconscious level, you know. So it all kind of comes together.
Cool.
Yeah. I hope so.
And you worked with your mom directing you before. How does that relationship work? Is that good?
Weirdly, it actually works really well. I'm so surprised, because I feel like it shouldn't. But I think because we've been doing it so long, because she used to come over to London. I used to have a theatre company in London, and she would come over and give workshops in this method, Michael Chekhov, which it was all about imagination, and it really kind of spoke to us. So we were loving that. And then, with my theatre company, did a couple of shows, and they were kind of big casts. And she directed them. We get her over to direct them, and then it just kept working. And I would get her for my one-woman shows. And the thing that's her real strong suit is that she's really able to get characters out of you, so that you're not just doing a sort of one-dimensional version of or two-dimensional version of a character. It's like you get the soul of every single character you're playing. And so it's a no-brainer. And I think we're very conscious of. We step across the threshold as soon as we go into the rehearsal room, and then we step back out. So there is definitely a professional relationship there. So I don't talk to her like my mum, unless I'm fighting for a line in the script or something. And I'm always just like, just trust me. And then on the night, if it's bad, we'll cut it, but trust me, you know. Whereas I probably wouldn't be that direct with with someone else.
Well, I'm going to wrap up the chat now, Amy, but where can we go to get information on the show and the crowdfunding appeal? And I mean, I'll put all this up on the website, all the links and everything like that.
Amazing.
And I'll sort of, over the next couple of days, we'll put up stuff. So, but where do we go?
So it's fundit.ie, and then /project/ICU. So ISEEYOU.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm on Twitter, so I'm at Amy DeVroon, and that'll have all it there as well. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Amy DeVroon one woman shows.
Great.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm a huge fan of Sophia Anne.
Oh, thank you. She will be back.
Oh, good.
She's my social media alter ego. I was like, she's coming back in 9 campaign is over. I'm sick of talking to people like myself.
I definitely feel there's room for Sophia Anne to have her own show, and honestly,
totally.
that's you. I love that.
I'm definitely developing something. She's there, and I'm definitely going to make something with her. So as soon as this is done, she's like my next project, because comedy is like
Yeah,
my
you're part of
happy place.
an improv troupe as well.
Yeah, the Good China. So and Tightrope is actually, I'll plug that. Tightrope is on every Sunday and Monday above Anseo, and it's different improv troupes. So we do that once a month, or there. But it's always different improv troupes, and it's great. And there's a great improv scene in Dublin. Just a lot of actors aren't aware of it, strangely enough.
And there's a girl who is in our show, Vicky Blades. She's and Marina Hampton are both part of Wonder Frogs up here. I think it's something similar.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll have to sort of link you guys up to.
Yeah, definitely.
It needs to be some kind of cross-border comedy.
Definitely, because we need more of it. It's such great crack, like.
Yeah. No, sounds great. Listen, Amy, thank you so much.
Not at all.
I'm so delighted to finally get to chat to you. And
yeah, it was lovely.
I really, really hope this comes off for you, because it's definitely, I mean, these voices are really needed. So I wish you all the best, and I will plug the heck out of it over the next 9 days now.
Oh, thank you so much.
We get it in there, we'll cross the line.
Yes, I know, come on. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it.
Right, darling, listen, thanks so much. And if you can email me any links that you want that can go up on the site as well, then I'll
deadly, I actually will. I've loads of them.
Brilliant, send them over. All right, honey, listen, I'll go. Take care of yourself. Thanks so much.
I'll see you soon.
Bye.